In this video, we're going to look at the binomial distribution and how to calculate probabilities from that distribution. So if x follows the binomial with 20 and 0.4 as a probability, we first need to notice that a binomial distribution will always involve a fixed number of trials, in our case 20 trials, and a constant probability of success, in our case 0.4. Now on our calculator we can do this quite easily. We go to menu, option 7, go down to binomial CD, and we go to variable, and we're going to type in these values. So x is less than or equal to 7. Now by default, the binomial distribution is always less than or equal to something. So this means not x equals 7, it means x is less than or equal to 7. And then we're going to press 20. The probability is 0.4, and then now press equals, and we get a value of 0.4159 rounded to 4 decimal places. It's because in the binomial tables that's in your formula book rounds the probabilities to 4 decimal places, so we'll follow the same convention. So 0.4159. So if you want to do the probability that x is less than 6, it's strictly less than 6. That's the same thing as the probability is less than or equal to 5. So again, we get our calculator out, and we're going to do 5 this time. That's the probability that x is less than or equal to 5. Same value for n, same value for p, and that will give me 0.1256 being rounded to 4 decimal places. Now, part C, we want the probability that x is greater than or equal to 15. So this will be the same thing as 1 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to 14. So that's going to be 1 minus, now we can get our calculator now, and do 14 here, get our value, which is 0.9983, and so on. But we want to store this value in our calculator. So the way we do that is you press STO, store, and you press A, and this value gets stored to the value of A. So if I want to do that calculation on my calculator, I press option 1 in the menu section, do 1 minus alpha and A, and then that will do the true value minus 1, or 1 minus the true value. So that's going to give me an extremely small value. I'm going to get the following. I'm going to get 0.0016. So 0.0016. You can try this question. You can pause the video, give it a go, and then I will go through C and D because that's got some new parts to it. But A and B, you should be able to give a try. So now in the first part, we do the following. So we get our calculator. We're going to go to menu, option 7, go down to binomial CD, which is a cumulative distribution, go to variable, select that the probability is less than or equal to 10 by typing in 10, n is going to be 20, and the corresponding probability is 0.35. So that gives me 0.9468. So we can write 0.9468, like so. Then in this case, so in part B, we're going to do the probability that x is greater than 6. So that's the same thing as 1 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to 6. Like so. So we can get that value from our calculator as before, change that to a 6. All the other parameters are the same. we said to store this value as A, then we're going to do menu 1 and then do 1 minus alpha and A. And that will give our value, and we'll get 0.5834. So 0.5834, and I need to write down what that value was. So I'm just going to go to alpha and A, and that's going to be 0.4166, and so on. And that's my required probability, 0.5834. Now for part C, it's going to be the probability that x equals to 5. Now there is a formula that you need to know, but you can get this value quite easily from your calculator. So we go to option 7 in the menu. So I'll do that again. So option 7. Now you're going to choose number 4, binomial PD, and variable. Now we're going to type our parameters into the calculator. So x equals 5, n is 20, and p is 0.35. And that will give me 0.1272. So 0.1272, and that's been rounded to 4 decimal places. Now I said to you that C and D were new style or new type of questions that I wanted to go through with you, because in the example, in the previous example we did, I didn't go through a question like this. That's why I'm going through it now. But so in part D, we read this as the probability that x is greater than or equal to 2, but less than or equal to 7. So if you want to calculate this probability, it's the probability that x is less than or equal to 7 minus the probability that x is less than or equal to 1. But a lot of students will say, well, sir, why are you doing that? Because it says less than or equal to 2. That's a mistake. It's actually not, because what does it mean to be the probability that x is less than or equal to 7? It means it's the probability that x equals 7 plus the probability that x equals 6 plus all the way, and what I'm going to do is write the probability that x equals 2 plus the probability of x equals 1 plus the probability of x equals 0. It's the sum of those probabilities. That's the probability of x is less than or equal to 7. But what we're going to do is minus the probability of x is less than or equal to 1. Why? So if we do that now, that's the probability of x equals 0 plus the probability of x equals 1. Now what happens respectively when you minus them? If you notice that the probability of x equals 0 here cancels with that probability of x equals 0, and the probability of x equals 1, that respectively cancels with that probability of x equals 1. So what you end up with, or what you're left with, is the probability, or the sum of probabilities from x equals 7 all the way inclusive to x equals 2. That's why, just to clarify your understanding there. So going back to this on our calculator, we can do this quite easily. So what we're going to do is get our calculator. So now we need to go back to option 7 again, go down to binomial CD, which is 1, and we're going to go to variable 7. So we get this value, so we want to store this value, which is 0.610 and so on, into A. So we're going to do that as 0.6010 and so on. We're going to store that value respectively into A, and then we need to go back and now work out the probability that x is less than or equal to 1. So we get that from our calculator, and I'm going to store that value on as B on my calculator. So now that's going to be, so I get the following. So I'm going to get, I'll do a calculation. This is rounded, but I've stored the true value into my calculator. I'm going to do 0.6010 minus 0.00213, and I've stored that into the value of b. I'll just store it into b again just in case I've forgotten to do so. So now we're going to go back to the main menu and do alpha a minus alpha b, and that will give me the following probability: 0.5989 to 4 decimal places. So let's write that down: 0.5989.